Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Commissioner. The first thing I would like to talk about are, not that we're going to come back to homicides and shootings, but I want to talk about robberies and carjackings to lead into something else. So I know that robberies are down this year. We know that that's a great thing, but we know carjacking specifically, we've seen a spike in those. Can you first just talk about the trends that we're seeing with robberies? I know we have a lot of robberies that we're seeing with groups of juveniles, and we know that at least the last time we were told that carjackings were having young people basically being paid to steal cars in order for other folks to commit robbery, shootings, homicides with those vehicles. Can you talk about, from an overarching view, what we're seeing on the streets of with robberies and carjackings in the city?
So I can tell you anecdotally that there are groups of individuals, by and large young people, who are committing multiple armed robberies. And when they are committing carjackings, they're stealing those cars from residents and from people so that they can use them to commit other crimes and to joyride, but by and large to commit other crimes. Here's what the chiefs across America are saying when we talk. The phenomenon of stealing cars is evolving. For those of us who have bought a new car recently, most all new cars in the past several years have a electronic digital key fob. So the art of stealing a car the way it used to be done is evolving, and so you actually need the electronic device for the car to start and move. So the evolution of stealing a car to taking it from somebody is kind of where that's going. That's what chiefs are seeing around the country. So, but that's anecdotal. Now, we have groups of young people who are committing armed robberies, and that trend is somewhat tied to many of our shootings. What we have found is that, we did press conferences on this in some recent arrests, that some of the juveniles who are committing shootings, those shootings were a result of robberies that have gone bad. And or the victims tried to get away or escape or didn't give up or refused to turn over the property to the perpetrator. Those are tied. We've made some arrests. There are people who are in custody who are tied to a number of robberies around the city. And so that's some of what we're seeing on the streets of Baltimore.
And so just to that point, can we talk about what kind of things we're putting in place to deal with them? And then more importantly, how many arrests for robberies have we made this year?
I can let our colonel talk about some of the arrests that we've made, but we have, as you know from our last time we were here, talked about decentralization of detectives, specifically robbery detectives, back to the districts. But in a very coordinated fashion, we're investigating those independent robberies that are happening in districts, but still working with our citywide robbery unit and crime analysts to tie those cases, those people, those guns, those victims to each other so that we can understand patterns of robberies that they're committing and then investigate them as patterns and as groups. And there are a number of those investigations that are underway. There are a number of arrests that we've already made, some with groups and some with individuals.
Good evening, Council President. So with regards to specific numbers, I can provide the specific numbers in that category, but I can tell you our clearance rate for carjacking specifically at this point is 22.12% of carjackings. And just as the Commissioner said, we have seen the trend of juveniles being involved in those patterns. So I'll give you the overarching numbers specifically for carjacking year to date.
Yeah, well, can go back a little bit, Colonel. So what's the national clearance rate for carjackings?
So at this juncture, there has not been a defined national just for carjacking.
It's just a simple armed robbery.
Yeah, I know it's armed robbery. I didn't know if they broke
classified
out
under the National Armed Robbery Statute.
Okay. Yeah. So how many total arrests have we made for armed robbery this year? That's the other question.
For armed robbery this
Yep.
year, I'll have to get you that number, sir.
So these were some of the things that we wanted you guys to be prepared to talk about today. So we would try to get those before the hearing. The hearing is over, and then also the clearance rate for the robbery arrest.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I said that to say to this point, when we're only clearing 22%, wanted to see what kind of technology and other resources that we can use and that we are using to help with robberies and carjackings. In particular, I'm thinking about license plate reader units and CCTV cameras. Can you talk about how we're using them now? And I don't know if we can, I expect you guys to be able to answer that today, but how many we've cleared with the use of LPRs or CCTV when we're talking about robberies and carjackings?
So we use that for all of our crimes, but specifically for those violent offenses like robberies and carjackings. License plate readers, both the mobile license plate readers and our crime cameras, whether they are city cameras in public right-of-ways and or private cameras owned by businesses and residents of Baltimore. And we use that into the watch center and City Watch so that we can gather evidence and use that to solve those cases. Some of them we were able to solve that led to the clearance rate. It does need to improve. We do need better cameras. Some of them are very old generation cameras. So there needs to be an investment into the evolution of the newest technology, both with more license plate readers but more CCTV cameras, and also the investment that citizens can make in cameras on their homes and our businesses that we can go to when crimes are committed to help solve these cases. That's the way to reduce robbery, by making sure when we catch them that we hold them accountable, because they're committing multiple robberies. But we're using all of that technology. We're using crime analysts, both here in the police department and with our federal partners and state partners, to build good quality cases, to connect them to other cases, other people, other days, times, weeks, and events.
We know that you put in place the micro zones. Can you just give us a quick update on the impact that we're seeing there? Are we seeing reductions in the micro zones? And then also, I know you guys said you were going to monitor displacement. Are we seeing displacement from them as well?
Yes.
Yes, actually what we're seeing is the reductions haven't come as quickly as we hoped. They're right around the same as what they were. But what we are seeing is the officers are spending more time in it as we get further into it. The Southwest was a pilot, and they actually do it the best because they've been doing it the longest. But we've also seen the displacement where the officers are spending the time in the heart of the microzone. It's pushing it out to the outskirts and to basically away from the microzones. So as long as we stay on the plan and the officers continue, we will see the reductions. I think it's still too early to tell with the city huge the reductions that we're going to expect.
And so, Colonel, can you I don't know if you have the data. Could you go through the zones for us if you have data comparisons to tell us where the zones are this year versus last year?
I don't, because it's 123 of the zones.
You can start from number one.
You can start from one and go to the bottom. If we can, over the next several days, get that information over to us, it would be appreciated. And then also for the displacement, just want to see if the displacement numbers are equal to, more or less than the incidents that happened in that zone as well before, just to see how we're doing.
Yep.
Mr. Commissioner,
Yes.
you know that for me, the most important arrest that we can make in Baltimore are gun arrests. So I just want to see where we are in gun arrests so far this year, year to date versus last year, but also, more importantly, how many of the individuals that we have arrested with guns this year are what we call VROs or ARIs?
We are very active in making gun arrests. There was a week or so ago, we were talking, I think there were 11 gun arrests over a 3 or 4 day period. So the officers are actually out there being very proactive and are looking for the bad actors who are carrying guns, by the way, which is the prerequisite for shooting someone.
That's right.
So they are connected. But Colonel, can you give us the year-to-date numbers for gun arrests?
Yes, sir. The year-to-date numbers for gun arrests are 1,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. 1,048 year-to-date.
And what was it last year, Colonel?
1,162.
So we're down just a little. And how many of those individuals are VROs or ARIs?
That one I'll turn over to Colonel Briscoe.
So we don't have a number. We can tell you we've prioritized with our GVED cases, and of those GVED cases, there are 50 cases that we've prioritized. It's Tier 1 cases. And to follow up to your earlier question about robberies, I do apologize for the delay. We've had 731 arrests thus far this year for robbery. However, that's all of robbery classification, not broken out by carjacking or any other.
And how many robbery arrests did we have at this time last year?
This time last year, this time last year we had 522.
So they're up. Thank you. Commissioner, I think that I appreciate the Colonel's information, but if the strategy is going to be that we're targeting VROs, then in order for us all to work better together when we're making these arrests, we have to be able to track that. So the only way that myself, the mayor's office, this council, the state general assembly to a lesser extent can hold you guys accountable is if we're knowing who we're targeting. And then that also, when that data is shared, then it allows communities to be empowered to say, these are, this is happening on the streets of Baltimore. And we've gotten that information before, so if we could get that breakdown over the next couple of days, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir.